Recording. Hello and welcome to the commentary box. As always, you are joined by me, Sam Turner, and Jake Griffiths. Hello, Jake.
Hello, Sam.
How are you?
I'm good. Enjoying the Welsh weather, but still sticking to our schedule of doing these podcasts.
Yes, it's interesting. Both me and Jake have been down to Wales in the last 2 weeks, and we both kind of went on the same kind of time period we've both been to see football matches recently, haven't we, Jake?
We have indeed. Some went better than others.
Yes, I went to see Swansea versus Leeds, which you can go to match report on our channel. It was 2-2, and it was probably one of the best games I've ever been to in terms of actual gameplay. I got to see Bielsa, so very, very, very happy with that. And how did Sunderland go then, Jake?
Not too great. We lost 4-1. To be fair, though, we were leading at the beginning, and that is the best I've seen Jules play for quite a long time, and the best we've ever played when we've lost, because in terms of like sort of chances created and things like that, we did like threat a lot, and our new signings actually played really well. So it was a weird one, because I came away from it thinking really happy and proud of how we did and confident going forward to the season. So it was an opposite feeling what I thought it would, but no, It was actually a good loss in a way.
Yeah, because I can imagine losing 4-1 but still feeling quite happy doesn't happen that often. But I looked at the stats and it was pretty even. I think Sunderland kind of maybe just had the superior players almost by the sounds of it.
Yeah, in terms of sort of taking their chances, our players might take 2 or 3 attempts to score a goal, get it on target, but obviously every chance that Sunderland got, they pretty much scored.
Yeah, but at least you enjoyed the game, and I enjoyed the game as well. I went to. But yes, today we'll be talking about Watford in the Premier League, of course, and their brilliant start. And then we'll be talking a bit about how which players have impressed you the most so far this Premier League season. And then we'll be talking a bit about Richarlison, if I'm pronouncing his name right. A player that I have already mentioned on previous podcasts this season has to be not worth it, but thought might as well have a debate on whether he's worth the money and what would he need to do to be worth the money, if that makes any sense. But with no further ado, we will be starting with Watford. So Watford have won 3 out of 3 so far this season, beating Brighton 2-0 in their first game, then beating Burnley, who are still in the Europa League, 3-1 away, and then of course this weekend they beat Crystal Palace 2-1. So they've started really, really well, haven't they, Jake?
Yeah, I think looking at the teams they've played, obviously on paper you may not think it's too impressive, but we think about obviously the last couple of seasons that Burnley have had and how Brighton have done this season as well to beat Manchester United, and Crystal Palace also had a really, really good start under Roy Hodgson as well. So it's definitely one to pick out and one to be impressed with. Yeah,
I think if I just read out our predictions for the Premier League, we've both highly underestimated Watford perhaps, because I've got them down to finish 17th. And Jake, do you remember what you put them down to be?
I think I've hit them to be bottom of the table.
Yes, you did. You put them bottom of the table in 20th. Yes, I think we've already been proved wrong slightly, but you never know what could happen. Of course, Javi Gracia is the manager of Watford at the moment. The Spaniard has managed a range of teams from Rubin Kazan in Russia to Cadiz in Spain. I don't know him that well. I'm pretty sure I didn't really know him at all till he signed for Watford, replacing Silva. But Watford have had decent managers in the past, but they've been quite ruthless. Of course, they've had like Enrique Flores and Walter Mazzari, who have done well for the team, but they've been sacked. And I just want to know, Jake, do you think that if things go slightly sour for Javi Gracia come, say, October, November, and this form doesn't continue, can you see Watford again not giving managers time to kind of put their stamp on a team?
Well, it definitely happened before, and there's no reason to say it happening again. I think when Marco Silva was in charge, I think people thought it would be different, because Marco Silva seemed to have done very well for them, and even though his head was turned by Everton, eventually ended up there. I think we thought, there could be a slight change in the cycle. But I think when you always have the same sort of owners and sort of same chairman, things like that, they sort of have to have the same like sort of instinctive ideas and views. So when it comes to a manager not doing well, they're only going to really allow the similar amount of time. So I think it'd be a little bit later in October. I think Christmas time, if things have gone bad and they haven't really kept the form at all and they're not doing very well, I could definitely see them sacking the manager, doing another change. Because it never, sort of when you have chairmen and owners, they always seem to have the same ideas and views, and no matter how much pressure they could get from their fan base, they seem to keep it. So if I use Mike Ashley, for example, at Newcastle, never really done amazingly with them. And whenever things had not gone great, he sort of kept with the same ideas, and he never really changed his sort of view or philosophy, and he sort of kept the same thing, even though the fans really, really weren't happy with it. And in the end, he sort of had the same results from that. So I think for him, he's definitely got to be wary, and he's obviously got to try and keep this form going. Obviously, me and you obviously did not expect that at all, because we both rated them to come so low on our predictions. But it'd be interesting to see how he gets on, and if they do bad, how like the board and the chairman of that are going to react to sort of their results in terms of league, because Watford are very sort of result based on doing them well. So obviously all football clubs are, but even if they play incredible like good football and you see changes under Marco Silva, we saw a different style of play from Watford, and it was really good and inventive and creative, and everyone enjoyed watching them. It never really saw any sort of big changes, and in the end he did get the sack, so we shall see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just to add on to those points, really, the Pozzo family, which I think it is, owns Watford and also owns, I think, Udinese in Italy. I've always associated Watford, at least in the Premier League, as being a team that just chop and change managers too much. And as you said, I think if the board have that in their mindset, it's always going to happen. So I do hope Gracia has more time, and I hope it isn't just a flash in the pan for Watford, as it was kind of at the beginning of last season where they started really well. But I think they do have the players to continue on doing really well, and maybe it was just Silva last season that meant that it went a bit pear-shaped, because Silva was obviously, as you mentioned, had his head turned, because they've got players like Doucouré, who is a really underestimated player in the Premier League. I think he could fit into most Premier League midfields. They've got, of course, Dini, which is a player that has so much experience and history at the club. And you need kind of that kind of stalwart in a team to kind of knows the club inside out to kind of progress a club. They've also got like Deulofeu, they've got Pereira, who have both started the season really, really well. And I think we have underestimated there. And I think they do have the players to continue this form throughout the season. And you never know, they could have a season like they did at Southampton did a few years back, where Southampton finished 5th, if I remember rightly, or 6th, I think it was, crazily. So it's going to be definitely interesting to see how they do over the whole season. So we'll see how it goes for them. Of course, they are one of the only teams that have a 100% record with Chelsea and Tottenham, and they lie in 3rd position.
Sure. How long was it? Was it good enough?
I reckon it was okay-ish. I mean, we can continue talking about them if you want.
No, we'll go on to the other one, because I think we have probably both got more to say on that, to be honest.
Okay, so leaving Watford for a moment, really, we're going to be talking about the best players so far in the Premier League. We put a poll out on Twitter asking you which player has impressed you the most this season, with the options of Sadio Mane, Benjamin Mendy, or Robert Pereira. And then, of course, you could put other, and you could have commented below. But the winner was Roberto Pereira, of Watford. I just wanted to know your opinions, Jake, on who you think has made the best start to the season as a player, really.
Yeah, I think might actually have to agree. I think it's a difficult one, because when you say impress, obviously it changes it, because it's not saying who is the best player, because obviously you might go, oh, well, Mane done very, very well the last couple of seasons, and again, having another good season so far. But Pereira, who one of those players, when we were talking about Watford earlier, they've got a lot of quality in their side, so to speak, and he's one of those players who have always been of a half-decent level. It just sometimes not quite putting in the performances you would expect, but definitely this season, impressing, doing really well, being quite a key player in their team. A lot of balls going through him sort of being one to maybe link. So I think I'd agree with that, to be honest. I think Mendy has done well, especially because he was injured for most of last season anyway. Didn't really do too well. Personally, I think he has done quite well. He has impressed me, and I like the football he's been playing. Likewise with Mane as well. But I would agree with the fans, and I would go with Piera for now.
Yeah, the Piero won 50% of the vote. Sadio Mane got 31% of the vote, and Benjamin Mendy got 19%. I think Roberto Pereira has made a brilliant start to this season. He scored 3 goals in his 3 games played, and no doubt he's been performing well. I just be interesting to see if he continues on with this form. As you said, he can be a bit inconsistent, but that's kind of Watford all over. And then as for Sadio Mane, I was tempted to put Mo Salah in the poll, but I decided against it and I put Sadio Mane in instead. Salah has got 2 goals and 1 assist, but I thought Sadio Mane has scored 3 goals, and I was so tempted to put both in, but I thought I might as well put a range of players from different clubs in. But Sadio Mane's made a great start, I think, to the season. He scored really a lot of goals, and that front three of Liverpool is looking as dangerous as ever done. And I think Liverpool have a real chance of winning the titles this season with the likes of Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah in their team. And then as for Benjamin Mendy, I actually voted for Benjamin Mendy on the poll. He got 19%, as I said. I think he's made a really tremendous start. As you said, he had that injury last season where he didn't get to play a lot. But as I've watched him, he just is so interesting to watch. He makes great runs. He overlaps so well, and he puts some great crosses in. He's already got, I think he got 3 assists in the league, and he's done really well. And I like to see defenders doing well and getting kind of praise for it. So I think that's why I put Benjamin Mendy.
Yeah, he's had a really good start. I think with a couple of other players to mention as well. I think Aguero's done well in terms of goals early on, doing very well to score. I think as well as that, Trippier, he's done very well. He scored a free kick. I can't remember who against, but he definitely scored a free kick. And the other player I was going to mention, Harry Kane, has had a good start. And I don't know if you saw last night, Sam, Tottenham United.
I looked at the BBC Sports this morning and I thought, I should have really watched that game.
Yeah, no, I managed to catch it. My grandparents here got Sky, so I managed to watch that. Very good, really quite entertaining game. Sort of end-to-end in most parts. Obviously, Tottenham taking their chance, and Harry Kane scored a really good header. Straight back across the goal. It was top corner. That was a very good header. And he's so dangerous in the air. And like we were saying on the last podcast, getting the goals in August, which he doesn't always do, could lead him towards another very good season and possibly another golden boot to his name.
Yeah. I mean, do you think anyone can rival Kane this season? I know we're going slightly off topic here, but it's kind of linking well. But do you think anyone can rival Kane for the golden boot? Do you think Salah will be able to do it again? Do you think Aguero will finally maybe not finally get a golden boot, but do you think he'll push Kane a bit further? Who else do you think could maybe take that golden boot away from Kane?
I think Salah's definitely going to have a decent season. I think he's not going to have quite the season he had last year. I think possibly we're going to look at Mane taking more of the goals, but I think it's going to be a bit more of an even share. I think Salah's going to do very well. He's one of the best players in the world by far, but I think he's not going to quite reach the sort of scoreline, because I'm seeing in some games where, not that he's dropping deeper, but that sometimes he's threading a couple of more passes through, and rather than getting on the end. And I know they've got Keita there as well, who does that job very well. But I just feel like Mane is he's just potentially a bit more dangerous to handle. It's a bit stronger, a bit more physical, got more pace.
A bit more of a poacher almost than.
Yeah, he is, and he's there, and he's very urgent and persistent. He got incredible fitness to sort of keep going and keep pressurising defences. So I think Mane will have a shout at challenging. I think Aguero will be up there, but I just can't really see Kane struggling against too many sides, because he does score in big games. It's not just the lower league sides in the table that he's sort of scoring against. He's scoring against the United and the big teams. So no, I'd be interested to see how he gets on this season. But I would definitely go again with Kane, and I think it's going to be a comfortable Golden Boot for him.
Do you not think maybe the World Cup might hamper him though? Because I'm just thinking, like, having to play all those games in the World Cup, not getting a great amount of time off, then going straight into Tottenham where he's the main man and everything basically goes through him. Do you think that might tire him physically but also mentally? And it might mean he has a prolific season, obviously, but might he not have like one of his best seasons?
No, I see what you mean. I remember we talked about it last episode. We talked about the new stadium and things like that. So how well he's going to cope and the team will cope. But I think he's one of the players who he doesn't exactly run a huge amount. I never really see him that tired. Like, we know he's not got incredible pace and like amazing agility and things like that. But he never seems to really be tired out, and he's never really sprinting around too much. You want those players who conserves his fitness quite well, and he's in that team week in, week out, so he's used to playing consistent games. I see what you mean about the World Cup and all the games he played, and sort of how that's going to take an effect on his mental side. I think mental side he might affect, but I think physically, I think he'd be okay. He does well with fitness, and he conserves it well throughout games, and never really seems too tired. And Pochettino will know that, and he'll know whether to take him off or rest him on a cup game, things like that. So I think he'd be okay, but the odds are definitely against him.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So, of course, we couldn't mention every player that has started well this season, but it'd be interesting to know maybe if a player that we haven't mentioned has done really well and we maybe should have mentioned him. And just so if you do know a player that started well, go comment it below, maybe tweet us, comment on one of our Instagram posts. So let us know, and it'd be interesting to see your kind of opinions on who we may have missed, because I know James Maddison is a player that may have mentioned maybe James Tarkowski, but of course we don't have time to mention all of them. Probably diverged slightly off there, but up on track. And one of the other player that started well is Richarlison. I didn't put him on the poll purely because he got a red card in the Bournemouth game, but he has started well, scoring 2 against Wolves in Everton's opening draw against Wolves 2-2, and then he scored 1 against Southampton in their 2-1 victory, but of course he was sent off against Bournemouth. I just wanted to kind of have a debate on him and whether he is worth the money that Everton paid Watford. Of course, the fee was 35 million and potentially rising to 50 million. I just want to know your opinions on the matter. I think people have heard my opinions a few times on the matter, but what's your opinions on the fee?
Well, I think obviously it was a lot of money for him, and Everton, who had actually they have actually sort of splashed out a little bit lately in terms of signings, and when they brought Sigurdsson, as you would have been disappointed to have left your club.
Yes, very, especially in the manner it went.
True, and other players like that, they definitely have spent money. Pickford, obviously, they didn't exactly get for cheap as well, so they have splashed out a little bit, but so far he's been proving he is worth it. And I think if he continues the form he has, we're going to sort of see that Everton that we used to see probably about maybe even 4 or 5 years ago now, where they used to be, apart from the top 6, they were that team straight outside the top 6.
Yeah, basically
every season, consistent. Doing very well, playing really good football, and challenging the top 6 every now and again, and making it hard for them to do as well. And I think we haven't seen it for a long while, and I think he could definitely be someone who could change that around and make it worth it. I think we haven't seen enough of him to make sort of a pivotal decision on whether he is worth the money or not. But definitely so far, he's proving it wrong, and he's been scoring in the games. We did obviously, like you were saying, see him get sent off, possibly a little bit of temper. But he's doing well. Seems to be worth the money, and I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think he might have got a Brazilian call up or something like that with a Brazilian team.
Yes, he did. I was about to mention that actually. He has recently been called up to the Brazilian squad as of 11 hours ago, I think, for their upcoming friendlies against United States and El Salvador. So it's all looking bright for him. Basically, what do you think what does he have to do to make sure he's worth the amount that Everton paid for him? Does he have to score 20 goals? Does he have to help Everton win a trophy? What does he have to do to be worth it?
I think it's got to be a bit of both. How much they pay for him again? It was around...
35 million,
okay, yeah.
And then rising to 50 potentially.
Yeah, because I remember seeing something about 50. I wasn't sure if that was the original fee. Okay, so it can go up to 50. So, interesting. I think if you pay 35, let's just say there wasn't an add-on or any add-on fees. If you pay 35 million for a striker, I think you'd expect them to get possibly between 10 and 15 goals in the season would be sort of the minimum I think you probably expect, perhaps.
Yeah.
For a size of club of Everton, for example, because obviously the big clubs pay ridiculous amount of money and they won't get that. But for Everton, I think to pay that sort of money for a player, they've got to get between 10 and 15 goals would be a good season for him. I think in terms of if he does well in the cup, let's say they do very well and they perhaps win the league or FA Cup, I think that will make his money worth it. I think a trophy will be more valued, especially if he does very, very well in the cup competition over goals that he scores. So yeah, I think if it was 35 million, I think between 10 to 15 goals in the season and bringing him to the cup would be definitely worth it. If it does rise to 50, I think if he still does well, I think if he gets about 15 goals and they do win a trophy, for 50 million, 100%, they will definitely take that. But I think fans are going to want to see him get goals. Obviously, that's what he's brought into, especially since they sort of lost Lukaku. They haven't really found anyone to sort of fit into that place. Like, I know they brought Cech Tosun from Besiktas, that was it. I knew it was Turkish. But they brought him in, and he's done well, but he hasn't quite done as well as they may have wanted. I know they have Calvert-Lewin as well, who a youngster coming through. They thought he could possibly replace Lukaku, but he hasn't done that well either. So I think he's definitely got
the goals that they need.
Yes, yeah. And he got a little bit of pressure on his plate to sort of perform well for the money. But I think in terms of the money he's got, to actually answer the question, I think about 15 goals would be satisfactory for a team like Everton, and hopefully to get them just outside the top six like they sort of belong, and challenging against those big teams. Yeah,
definitely, because I think they've been lacking a superstar, as you said, since Lukaku, and this kind of opportunity with Richarlison is an opportunity to restore somewhat their kind of status in the Premier League. It's a lot of pressure on Richarlison's shoulders because, of course, last season he did play well for Watford, but as like we mentioned with other players, he was inconsistent. He did score 5 goals, I think, before Christmas, but then after Christmas he didn't score any. So I think he needs to be more consistent at Everton, and that's going to be hard for him, especially with all this added pressure being kind of the main man at Everton. So I think he will do well, but hopefully he won't crack under the pressure.
No, it'd be. I think it'd be nice for him to succeed and for Everton to sort of climb back up a bit in the league and sort of show that they are one of those teams who've not only been there a while, but obviously playing at a very high standard for a long period of time. So no, I do hope he does well. I think in terms of this Brazilian call-up, I think he looks like one of those players who's going to take that as a lot of confidence. I don't think he's going to really feel the pressure too much. So I know that's sort of maybe hard to understand, but I'm sort of, basing it off the fact he got a red card, and it was a little bit of sort of anger in terms of that. One of those players who potentially is a little bit hot-headed but very passionate. If they get a call-up from their country at a young age, that is going to give them confidence. I don't think he's one of those players who's going to shy away from the opportunity and maybe crumble a little bit in the next few games. I think he's going to take that under his belt and go, you know what, I am good enough. I am going to do well and I'm going to keep going. And I think he's going to really strive and hopefully use that to sort of give him motivation towards game time for Brazil. And I think it's put him on the big stage. So he's got a lot of potential and opportunity now to do very well. And I think he'll take that call up and go, you know what, I am good, I am successful, and I'm going to keep on going. It's going to bring in more confidence.
Yeah, I definitely see what you mean. He looks like a passionate player. Anyways, that somewhat wraps up our Watford-centric podcast. No, I'm sorry to any other fans of any other clubs. We didn't mean it to become a somewhat Watford focused podcast. It's just the way it happens. You never know, next time we might be focusing on another club, but we try to keep it all fair and etc. So we hope you have enjoyed this podcast. We certainly have, haven't we, Jake?
Yes, it's good.
But yes, it's time for us to say goodbye. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, which is at Box Commentary. You can follow us on Instagram, which is at Box Commentary. Or you can email us, which is the commentarybox.contact@gmail.com. And you can just email any topics you might want us to discuss, your opinions, or anything that generally you do with football. So yes, enjoy your footballing weekend. Don't forget to be awesome. I've been Sam Turner. See ya.
Goodbye and see you in the next one.
There we are.